He was thrown into the lion's den to be eaten by the lion, but he survived because his heart was pure and true. Watch how his story turned around for good. Malik was a very handsome young man, a skilled hunter, very kind and also a gentleman. In the village, people respected him, not just because of his strength, but because of the way he treated others. He greeted elders with respect, helped neighbors without being asked, and never allowed pride to enter his heart. The ladies could never take their eyes off him. Whenever he passed by the market square, mothers would laugh and tease him. "Malik, you will marry my daughter one day," they would say with playful smiles. "You are too kind and humble." Malik would simply laugh and shake his head politely because his heart already belonged to someone very special. Not far from his hut lived a beautiful young girl named Zina. Zina's beauty was something to behold. Her smooth skin glowed in the sun, her eyes were calm and gentle, and her smile could soften even the hardest heart. But what made people love her most was not her beauty, it was her character. Every weekend, she helped the elders fetch water from the river and gathered firewood for widows who could no longer walk long distances. She worked on the farms with the other women and never allowed her beauty to stop her from getting her hands dirty. Many believed the heavens had blessed her with both beauty and kindness. Malik and Zina had known each other since childhood. They grew up running through the same fields, swimming in the same river, and laughing under the same bright skies. As the years passed, their friendship slowly turned into something deeper, something neither of them could deny: love. Every evening after returning from hunting, Malik would bring bushmeat to Zina's family. Later, when the village became quiet, they would meet at their favorite spot in the village. There, they would sit beneath the open sky, staring at the stars and talking about their dreams. Over time, they became everyone's favorite couple in the village. But their peaceful lives were about to become very complicated. The kingdom was ruled by a kind and just king, a man who believed deeply in fairness and wisdom. Unfortunately, his son was nothing like him. Prince Darius was known throughout the land as a brute. He never took no for an answer and often used his royal position to intimidate people and get whatever he wanted. Some villagers even whispered that he could not possibly be the king's true son because he shared none of his father's goodness. For a long time, Darius had his eyes on Zina, but every time he approached her, she politely refused him. "My heart already belongs to another," she would say. Each rejection made the prince's anger grow stronger, and slowly his hatred for Malik began to grow darker. Deep in his heart, Prince Darius made a silent vow. He would do whatever it took to make Zina his. Prince Darius was not used to rejection. All his life, people had bowed their heads and obeyed his commands without question. Guards moved when he spoke, servants rushed when he called, and villagers trembled when he passed through the streets. But Zina was different. She never disrespected him, yet she never feared him either. Each time he tried to impress her with gifts or promises of wealth, she refused with calm politeness. "My heart already belongs to another," she would say. Those words haunted him. And the man she loved was the one person he hated the most: Malik. Every time Darius saw them together in the village square, laughing and walking side by side, his blood burned with jealousy. How could a simple hunter win the heart of the woman he desired? In the prince's mind, it was an insult. One afternoon, Darius rode through the village with his guards. As he passed the market square, he saw Malik handing fresh bushmeat to Zina while she smiled warmly at him. The villagers watched the couple with admiration. That moment was enough to break the prince's patience. His eyes narrowed as anger filled his chest. "That man dares to stand where I stand?" he muttered quietly. From that moment, a cruel idea began to grow in his mind. Later that evening, he summoned 2 royal guards to his chamber. "I want the hunter named Malik brought to me tomorrow," the prince ordered coldly. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Malik was well loved by the villagers and known to be harmless. "What crime has he committed, Your Highness?" one of them asked carefully. Darius smiled, but there was nothing kind in it. "He has insulted the crown," he replied, "and that crime deserves punishment." The next morning, as Malik prepared his hunting tools, royal guards suddenly surrounded him. "You are under arrest," one guard announced. Malik looked confused. "For what crime?" "By order of Prince Darius, You have disrespected the royal house." The villagers gathered quickly, whispering in fear. Everyone knew the accusation made no sense, but no one dared challenge the prince's authority. Zina pushed through the crowd when she heard the commotion. "Malik!" she cried. The guards held him firmly as she ran towards them. "Please, he has done nothing wrong," she begged. But the guards could only follow their orders. By midday, Malik was dragged before Prince Darius at the royal courtyard. The prince leaned back on his seat, staring down at him with cold satisfaction. "For insulting the crown," Darius announced loudly, "you will face the kingdom's ancient punishment." The crowd fell silent. Malik remained calm. "And what punishment is that, my prince?" Darius's crooked smile slowly appeared. "You will be thrown into the royal lion's den tonight." Gasps spread across the courtyard. Everyone knew what that meant. No man had ever survived the lions. Zina fell to her knees, tears filling her eyes as she pleaded for mercy. But Prince Darius simply turned away. In his mind, by sunrise, Malik would be nothing but bones. Prince Darius knew very well that his father, the king, would never approve of such cruelty. The king was known across the land for his fairness and wisdom. If he discovered that Malik was being punished without a real crime, the prince would certainly be stopped. So Darius made sure everything was done in secret. As night slowly covered the kingdom, only a few guards were summoned. No drums were beaten. No public announcement was made. Even the palace servants were ordered to stay away from the lower grounds of the castle. Deep behind the royal palace was a dark place feared by many, the lion's den. It was an ancient stone pit carved into the ground many generations ago, used long ago to punish the worst criminals in the kingdom. Few people had seen it, but everyone knew the stories. Once a man entered the den, he never came out alive. That night, torches flickered along the narrow path as Malik was led toward the pit. His hands were tied, but his steps were steady. Prince Darius stood nearby with a small group of guards, his arms folded as he watched with cold satisfaction. Zina had tried to follow them when she heard what was happening, but the palace gate had been shut before she could reach them. When they finally arrived, the guards stopped at the edge of the deep stone pit. From below came the low, restless growls of lions, hungry lions. One guard hesitated and quietly spoke. "Your Highness, the king does not know about this." Darius turned his sharp eyes toward him. "And he does not need to," the prince replied coldly. The guard lowered his head and said nothing more. Malik was brought to the edge of the den. The torchlight revealed the massive lions pacing slowly below, their eyes glowing in the darkness. One of the guards looked at Malik with pity. "Forgive us," he whispered softly. Malik simply nodded. "I hold no anger in my heart," he said calmly. Prince Darius stepped forward, his crooked smile returning. "Let us see if your courage can save you from the lions," he said mockingly. With a single command, the guards pushed Malik forward. His body disappeared into the darkness of the pit. For a moment, everyone held their breath, waiting to hear the terrifying sounds of attack. But something strange happened. The expected roar never came. The lions circled around him slowly, their heavy paws echoing against the stone floor. Instead of lunging at him, they stopped. One lion walked close and sniffed the air near him before quietly lying down. Another lion settled a few steps away, watching him silently. Malik stood still in the middle of the den, his heart steady as he looked at the animals surrounding him. Back in his chambers, Prince Darius frowned. This was not what he expected. Hours passed, the night grew deeper, and still the lions did not touch him. Instead, they rested around him like silent guardians, as if something about Malik's presence had calmed their wild nature, and by morning, the truth would shock the entire kingdom. Before sunrise, rumors had already begun to spread through the village. Some palace workers had seen torches moving toward the old lion's den during the night. Others whispered that the prince had secretly ordered an execution. By morning, the story had reached the ears of the king. The old king was a wise man, but he was not a fool. The moment he heard the rumors, his face grew dark with concern. Who was taken to the lion's den? He demanded. The palace servants hesitated before answering. A hunter from the village, Malik. The king stood up immediately. Who gave such an order? The room fell silent. But the king already suspected the truth. "Take me to the den," he commanded. Within minutes, the king, Several royal guards and a growing crowd of villagers made their way toward the ancient pit behind the palace. Among the crowd was Zina, her eyes red from crying through the night. Prince Darius also arrived shortly after, trying to hide his unease. He had expected the matter to be finished before sunrise. But the moment the king approached the edge of the den and looked down, something unbelievable met his eyes. Malik was still alive. He stood calmly in the center of the pit while the lions rested quietly around him. One lay beside him as if guarding him, while another slept a few steps away. Gasps spread through the crowd. Even the king himself stared in disbelief. "No man has ever survived a night in that den," he whispered. The guards quickly lowered ropes into the pit, and Malik was pulled out safely. The lions did not move. When Malik finally stood before the king, the crowd erupted in astonished murmurs. The king turned slowly toward his son. "Did you order this?" he asked firmly. Prince Darius tried to defend himself. "He insulted the crown." "Enough," the king thundered. The entire crowd fell silent. "You abused your power out of jealousy," the king continued. "You tried to murder an innocent man simply because the woman you desired loved someone else." Darius lowered his eyes, unable to respond. The king's voice grew colder. "From this moment forward, you are no longer my son." Shock rippled through the crowd. "You have shamed the throne and betrayed the values of this kingdom," the king declared. "You are banished from this land. Leave today and never return." The guards stepped forward and took the stunned prince away. Then the king turned back to Malik. "A man who can face death without hatred in his heart," the king said slowly, "is a man worthy of honor." He placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "If my own blood cannot rule with justice, then someone worthy must." The king raised his voice so the entire kingdom could hear. "From this day forward, Malik shall be the heir to the throne." The crowd erupted with cheers. Zina ran forward, tears of joy streaming down her face as she embraced him. The humble hunter who had been thrown to the lions had survived the night, and by sunrise, he had become the future king.